Business Focus with Kudzie, Sharara on the Champions League Breakfast.
22 minutes up before 8 is our time. Good morning and welcome to Business Focus, where we discuss a lot of what's happening in the world of business. Good morning to you, Kudzie, as always. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Tinashe. Good morning, Patisani, and good morning, everyone.
Okay, great. Morning, Kudzie. Let's begin from where we left yesterday. Okay. We got a message yesterday from Shekmanship, and we kept the message. And it says, morning, that was yesterday. Botswana Minister of Foreign Affairs invited Zimbabwean company Schweppes Zimbabwe to invest in Botswana and produce one of the citrus products, which is a good thing for us as a country. Do we, as Zimbabwe or this company, have the capacity? Do you see this happening? And also, now that the SADC summit is over, what is your overall opinion in terms of business? That's a question that came in yesterday, and we kept it on hold from Sheikh.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. In fact, there are several questions in that message.
Yeah.
Maybe we can start by giving it a little bit of a background. Remember, Zimbabwe was hosting Zimbabwe hosted the SADC Industrialization Week. And remember, one of the key focus areas for CZI, who was part of the organizers, or who were part of the organizers, was to bring in investment promotion agencies from various countries, Botswana included. And these investment promotion agencies were supposed to showcase or were actually showcasing investment opportunities in their countries, to say, we are from Botswana, this is what we can offer, these are the opportunities in Botswana for manufacturers. The same applies with any other investment. And I think we had about 10 investment promotion agencies from various countries. That's your Botswana, your Namibia, your Mauritius, your Madagascar, your Tanzania, to name just a few that I spoke to, Malawi as well, that they are investment promotion agencies. So basically what they were doing was to say to potential investors, come to our country, in this case Botswana, this is what we have got to offer for your businesses if you come to Botswana. And a follow-up on that again was now this to the message that Shekmanship has sent. Where the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Botswana, or from Botswana, actually toured one of our local companies, which is Schweppes Zimbabwe. I was fortunate to also attend that tour of Schweppes Zimbabwe. So what basically Botswana is asking Schweppes to do is to come and establish base in Botswana. So we've got Schweppes operations here in Zimbabwe. They actually grow their own oranges in Beitbridge. They've got a farm in Beitbridge, and they're actually looking at expanding that farm as well, or production of oranges there in Beitbridge. But they're also now being courted by the authorities in Botswana to say, why don't you come and establish base in Botswana? And I think for our Shekmanship asked about the capacity of Schweppes to do that. You know, they have done it here in Zimbabwe successfully. When people talk about Zimbabwean products that they are proud of, when they go even out of the country, even when you go to other countries like where our relatives are in the diaspora, they speak about some of the products that we have. And one of those products is from Schweppes. So they've done it here in Zimbabwe. But probably there are impediments to the growth of Schweppes. And this is one of the reasons why they are actually actively considering going into Botswana to establish a greenfield. So a greenfield is where you actually go on the ground, you start anew from the farm, and then to the processing of the oranges into production of their products. So this is something that Schweppes is actively pursuing. Now to the issue of capacity. One of the reasons, talking to management from Schweppes, this MD or CEO, Charles Msipa, he spoke about the need to access long-term funding, something that is missing here in Zimbabwe. If you go to local banks and say, I want funding, I want to go into a project, and I want money that I can pay back in the next 10 years, no bank in Zimbabwe can actually give you that kind of money for 10 years. In Zimbabwe at the moment, probably you can go up to 5 years. Those are the loans that you can actually get. Otherwise, most of the loans are 3 years at most. So we don't have long-term capital for such initiatives. And Schweppes is seeing an opportunity to say, if we go into Botswana, we'll be able to access capital that is long-term and that is also cheap. Remember, in Zimbabwe, when capital is lending here in Zimbabwe, because of our risky premium, partly because of sanctions, partly because we are in arrears, we don't pay our debts, or we fail to pay our debts, the loans that come into Zimbabwe, if you go to Afreximbank, if you go to any other someone who is going to give Zimbabwe money, it's lending here in Zimbabwe at around 11%. And then the banks also put their profits and markups and whatever they put here on top. So the loans here in Zimbabwe are almost like 15%. So probably for Schweppes, if they go into Botswana, they will get these loans at probably less than 10%. So again, that is another advantage that Botswana is offering Zimbabwean companies, which it's a good thing for Schweppes because they can expand. And if they start generating foreign currency, remember, when they are operating in Botswana, they are now generating pula. If they are exporting from Botswana, they are also getting US dollars. And they are exporting at a cheaper operating environment than they can do here in Zimbabwe. And maybe they can actually take some of that money, their profits, because they can repatriate their profits from Botswana into Zimbabwe and help to, now they will have access to cheaper forex in form of their retained profits from their operations in Botswana. So this is a good thing overall for the company and I think for the economy as well. Yeah.
So could the party trick you vakanovhura kubotswana botswana ikafaya vakaita mari yakawanda. Do you think they will keep on operating in Zimbabwe? Uku kune mataxes ari pasi zvaungotaura that they use they will supply Zimbabwe from Botswana.
Tisopedzera here takutenga iro dhingiro rakudhura tinzi riri kubva kubotswana.
How's the import?
Yeah, I don't know how it will play out in terms of that. Probably you could start to actually see them producing in Botswana and you know Zimbabweans, they're enterprising. They are not cheaper Botswana. I'll just go and buy there and bring them here. Zimbabweans are like that. But hopefully it won't get to that. Talking to Mr. Mzipa on the sidelines of the tour, he was actually saying that Zimbabwe remains their biggest market anyway for this product. But like I said, Zimbabweans being Zimbabweans, they can in fact, we're actually seeing some of their one of their major products, and we are seeing those products coming from Zambia, where they are also produced, and they are produced probably cheaper because your dollar here in Zimbabwe, if you take your US dollar, remember we are operating in a multi-currency system and we generate US dollars here. If you take your US dollars today, $1 karitora kana naro Zambia, rusko kuwanira 26 Zambian kwacha. And if inflation in Zambia is low, it means that my dollar can buy me a cheaper product a cheaper product in Zambia than I can buy it here in Zimbabwe. So yes, there are such challenges, which is homework for us here in Zimbabwe.
Remember, because the other day you were telling us about other sectors of the economy that are only supposed to be occupied by locals.
Yes.
Is it not the same thing that we are supposed to be having certain products proudly Zimbabwean produced?
Yes, this one is proudly Zimbabwean.
But
maybe
made in Botswana.
Maybe they will give it another name differently.
I'm just thinking
irikugadzirwa kuZambia already, so hapana an issue because already kune mazoe irikugadzirwa kuZambia, but taste yakatosiyana. Vanotokudza kuti asha yemuZimbabwe ndo chaichaya. So I don't know what sort of taste yeichagadzirwa kuBotswana inenge yakamira sei. But just to answer shipmanship, so Schweppes is actively pursuing the establishment of a greenfield there in Botswana, and the money will be there, capital is there, and cheaper than they can get here in Zimbabwe, and hopefully they can bring back their forex earnings, their profits back to Zimbabwe and also boost the local commerce. It's not Schweppes only that has done that. Remember, Sidco has got operations across Africa. They are in Zambia, they are in Tanzania, they are in Kenya, they are in many other African countries. That's Sidco, which is a Zimbabwean company that has established base in other markets. So this one is an opportunity for us to do the same with Schweppes and any other company that can go into the region, establish operations there and expand. We also have Simbisa brands, which has got the fast food, it's quick services restaurants, your chicken inns of this world. They are also in one of the biggest fast food operations in Kenya and other African markets. So there is nothing wrong with what they are trying to do in terms of expansion.
Made in Zimbabwe.
Unfortunately, yeah, I don't think that it will happen like that. Yeah.
Kuti ichadzora rini time yacho pachatanga kurima.
Zvinobuda. You see. Already cinema companies, do you know, here in Zimbabwe. Yesterday we were talking about Tanganda and their macadamia. Miti inototora time kuti idyarwe. Izokura izotanga kubereka zvinotora time. So that's why they are saying long-term capital. And 10 years or even more. And because you know kuti muti chinodyara wekayo uchatora makore apa manje muno muZimbabwe kuti ndoda kuwedzera munda wangu uri kuBait Bridge uko anditi woenda kuBhengi uchitoda mari yacho is short term. Haito muti unenge wautonzidzosa mari yedu muti wacho usatombotanga kana kuti usatombotanga kubereka.
What can be done kuma banks kuti tiwane ma lucrative deals anenge kuBotswana?
Yeah, so issue of capital, obviously we need to pay back our money. That's why the Minister of Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion vari kuita ma structured debt dialogue vari kuita nana AFDB bank and other people that we owe money to say, guys, can you help us to restructure our loans so that we can start accessing cheaper funding? And it's not only to access funding from the World Bank and the IMF, but we're also saying that once the IMF and the World Bank say, no, Zimbabwe is now fine to get loans, it means other lenders out there will not start to say, okay, Zimbabwe is not in areas. Zimbabwe is a good debtor. So when we go into Zimbabwe, hatichaisa that risky premium. Because there's one risky premium. Risky premium, which means we access loans at a higher price or higher interest rates than others. So once that is sorted, then other lenders can come into Zimbabwe and lend us cheaper. And that is patient capital that we are lacking here in Zimbabwe at the moment.
Still with the issue to do with Schweppes, there's a question coming in. Hakuna tax incentives for manufacturers to keep this importing of a product that we make in this country for a company that is located in Zimbabwe. For example, Mazoe from Zambia and Mazoe in Zimbabwe, all by Schweppes. Tax incentives.
And inenge iri protected here painosvika iko kuBotswana, like what we did to Varun Beverages, that you're not going to be paying taxes for a certain period of time.
Yeah, so these are investment incentives that different countries give. Even here in Zimbabwe, we have got areas where you can say you can go and operate in what they call a special economic zone, where my tax incentives are there and other incentives that they put. But the challenge is that probably you might say, okay, like remember the other day we were saying that why don't you declare Bulawayo a special economic zone so that we reduce some of the costs of doing business. I'm sure if you're on social media, you saw one of the local fast food restaurants was invited applications for jobs, and it was flooded with youth and people looking for jobs, right? So it means that my job opportunities in Bulawayo are very limited. So you can create my special economic zones where the cost of doing business, maybe my tax incentives are even my license fees, license fee or reduced. Or my permits actually are reduced, or you don't even have to pay for certain permits, which makes producing products here in Zimbabwe cheaper. But there are other enablers that we also lack, like someone later when we're talking about Bulawayo to say, but Bulawayo hakuna mvura. And if I want to manufacturers, they require water, but even if you make other things cheaper, but there is no water, how will they operate? So there are these key enablers that are needed by businesses for them to operate viably and profitably, which we are lacking as a country. And some of those things we can easily do them and say, guys, from today onwards, company nda kuestablish a base kwakati hamubhadhare ma tax breaks or mamshataura nishumba anogona kupiwa as my incentives to do that, but they still we lack, for example, patient capital. Etanchataura kuti Botswana vari kutoti uku tinoona na long term money iri cheaper, which you can find here in Zimbabwe, and a bank in Botswana will give you a loan. Wanadokoporeta uri muBotswana nditi vanokupa nema interest rates are low and other things anditi, but ukati same bank rero uyamutipe kuno operator tiri muZimbabwe, immediately the risk premium is put there and things like that. So yeah.
So there's a challenge. There goes a challenge to the Bankers Association of Zimbabwe now. Yes, it's
a challenge to the Bankers Association of Zimbabwe, but it's also a challenge to the authorities, because the Bankers Association of Zimbabwe, imagine the banks have been going out. Recently, we spoke about some of them that went out, and as they went out, got $80 million. Recently, last week, they got another 2 weeks ago. Last week, they got another $15 million from outside the country. Right? What they're trying to do is to get patient capital, but again, it's not patient enough for some of these projects, like when you want to do farming, horticulture, where the plant will take years for it to start giving you, to bearing fruits. So we don't have that patient capital, and it's homework, yes, to the authorities. And I think maybe next week we'll try and invite the Bankers Association of Zimbabwe. Vambopindura mumwe mubvunzo yatinayo as bankers, yes.
Mabhenki kwedu ane zvivindi here zvokutora risk yakadaro, because you understand mabhenki anototi insure whatever you are doing just in case of risk.
Banks are intermediaries, Patisani. Kana intermediary ndezvekuti vanotora kuna Tinashe ane mari yake haasi kuda kushandisa today, anditi voitora vopa kuna Patisani ada kuishandisa nhasi. Tinashe ari kuti nini mari iyi ndoda kuichengeta for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, so ndichengeterewo sebhengi. And then bank retora mari yatinashe yauya at 10 years, 20 years, ropa Patisana ari kuti nini ndipewo mari ndoda kuzoibhadhara in 20 years. So banks are intermediaries. So once they can take that risk. Once kwavawana munhu anovapa mari yekuchengeta for 10 years, they can easily give it to you. But they can't take mari yangoni yaari kuti ndiri kuida next month, anditi voda kuita sei vopa iwewo ruda for 10 years. So these banks are intermediaries, anditi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kudzi, you've got something that you'd want us to share with us for the next 5 minutes.
I want to remember. So others will say, okay, so we had those guys from Botswana and the like coming to Zimbabwe, quoting Zimbabwean companies to invite them to operate in those countries. What does Zimbabwe have to offer in terms of that? And fortunately, at the tour, CZI CEO Sekai Kuvarika was also there, and obviously with the Botswana saying that Isusu will give you A, B, C, D. The foreign minister was there saying Isusu Botswana tinokuitai zvakati nezvakati for you to be able to operate from Botswana. Competition. Yeah. And exactly, that was happened. So Sekai Kuvarika, the CEO of CZI, was also there, and I think she had to defend Zimbabwe, to say this is what Zimbabwe can offer, and these are some of the clip that we are sharing is what she had to say when she also spoke at the tour.
For internationalization, when we look at the Zimbabwean manufacturing industry, we also have a full cycle where the manufacturing industry, and focusing on agro-processing in particular, we have the capabilities to provide inputs into the agriculture sector, agriculture equipment, various inputs into the agriculture production. We also have the capacity to process the output that is coming from the agriculture sector into value-added products, as you have seen such as you have seen in the Schweppes factory here today. So the industry is quite mature in the sense that we can supply agriculture, and agriculture in turn supplies manufacturing industry for processing. And I think at the height of our agriculture production, we were able to supply about 85% of agro-processing inputs from our local agriculture production. As a mature industry that has various and diversified products manufacturing capabilities, we are considered as the Zimbabwean economy as the second best potential beneficiary of the free trade area opportunity that is before us. And this recognizes that as we go into the CFTA, we do have to have goods and services to trade on the continent. And due to these capabilities, if they are supported by trade facilitation and various other enablers, we will be able to derive the second most benefits from the CFTA. I think it's equivalent to plus or minus 12% of GDP equivalent per year if we are to implement some trade facilitation and other business environment reforms. So the importance of this to the SADC region is that we are a good source of deriving manufacturing capabilities to supply the rest of the continent, and partnerships and investments across the borders or between the countries in the SADC region can also benefit from the capacities here. And Zimbabwean companies expanding into Botswana would also increase, I would say, Botswana's participation and both our countries' participation in the CFTA market opportunity. I also wanted to highlight one of the key capabilities that we have is we have also observed the rise of vertical integration in our agro-processing sector, where our agro-processors are increasingly participating in various nodes of the value chains, including primary production, which has given a rise to corporate farming in order to supply raw materials into agro-processing or agro-based value addition.